to Columbia County within the next hour or so. It is a supercell thunderstorm. I've been tracking this storm. We were on the air for 2 hours during the newscast. When I went on the air, this same thunderstorm was north of the Macon area. It has held together the entire time. So we are talking about a supercell thunderstorm, and that right there could be what we call debris ball up in the sky. This is a strong indication that we really do have a tornado on the ground, and it is moving east toward Underwood.
Yeah, and Chris, it looks like they did update that warning there, so that, like you just mentioned too, so we do have that.
You can come on over to the green screen if you need to as well.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So we do have that tornado warning there. Now, the reason why this one is actually highlighted in white is because the Weather Service did confirm that there is a tornado on the ground right now. That's what we can see here with this little light shade of coloring. Now, this is going to continue to move off to the east, northeast, so the Underwood community, and then moving into Hancock County. This is where you guys are definitely want to make sure you're staying weather aware. That tornado warning is now confirmed to be an observed tornado on the ground, so you definitely want to take this very seriously. I'm going to change this around a little bit so folks can see a little bit better. I do want to pull up our high-resolution radar. This shows that hook just a little bit better. And Zach, you guys can come right over here to the Weather Center if you want. I'll give folks a good idea of what we're kind of seeing. Chris, you can kind of walk folks through this as well. But this is a little bit more of a detailed look of what we're seeing on radar. So this is your inflow notch here, that dry air kind of getting sucked in a little bit there. A lot of hail. You can see a lot of hail on the screen there, especially for areas north of the Underwood community. But this is going to continue to move off toward the northeast there. And we'll zoom in a little bit here. I do want to change this to correlation. And just like what we were seeing earlier, there's your tornado on the ground right now. Not that blue dot that we see, but definitely a lot more organization that's going on. And that's going to continue to develop. It's pretty good size,
and also keep in mind with the location of the debris ball, the storm is moving 40 miles per hour, and it's throwing the debris up into the clouds, literally, and the radar beam's picking that up. So again, this notch right here, likely where the actual tornado is, and the debris kind of lingering behind. But that debris ball there tells us for sure that this right here is a tornado. It looks like it will stay just to the north of Linton and to the south of Devereaux. So if you are watching in those areas, go ahead and take cover to be safe, because they can take turns kind of on short notice. But right now it looks like you're probably safe in those areas. But as you imagine coming on out here, it looks like it's going to split the gap between Sparta and Worthen, and eventually at 40 miles per hour, head on into the heart of the CSRA.
Yeah, and it does look like, too, so there's your tornado down here. That's that little dot. But if you look to the north of that, all of this big yellow, the little green blotch there, that's a lot of your hail going on, too. So there's in addition to the tornado threat, there's a lot of hail going on. I'll switch this back over to the regular radar here. I'll get this loaded up. And what we can see there is just, it's a lot of detailed stuff going on there. So you can really see all of that. Just I'm going to switch this to something that looks a little bit better for us. And there you can see all of that debris kind of a little bit higher up there. And that's just a good chunk of hail. Let's put this over to our regular reflectivity. And there you go. There's that typical pink that you see. A lot of lightning associated with these thunderstorms as well, in addition to that tornado threat.
Yeah, what happens, you have the debris here showing up. It has a very strong signature reflectivity-wise, also hail in the thunderstorm as well. So you do get a kind of an anomalous, strong echo there. But yeah, you've got the hook here, the classic right there in the middle of that thunderstorm there. And there's a look at our first alert that we do have issued. That's for the entire area. So this is all moving toward Augusta, eventually Aiken over the next 2 or 3 hours until about 11 o'clock. So if you're watching this right now and wondering, why are they on TV covering up my favorite program? It's because it may not affect you right now, but it is going to affect the entire area. And if you're watching from Hancock County right now, this is very, very important to you. So just bear with us as we cover this storm until its end. This morning will be at 8:15, but don't be surprised if there are new warnings issued, because this is a supercell storm. It's not showing any signs of weakening, and we do have confirmation of a real tornado, not just radar indicated. It is actually on the ground. And with showing a debris ball, it's usually a fairly significant tornado.
And one of the things about this, too, is it's actually relatively close to the Macon radar. So the returns that we're seeing are pretty good. They're something that, you know, is something that we can verify just by looking at the screen versus if this was something that was a lot further away from the radar, that gives us a little bit more detail too. So that's definitely helpful. But I'll zoom in a little bit more. One of the things that I noticed, Chris, over the last few frames, we'll kind of play back and forth a little bit here, and you can see, I'll zoom actually out a little bit, that'll probably help. So this is going back to about 7:43.
Oh, yeah.
That was going through Milledgeville there, so if you have family there, maybe just check in and see how they're doing. Then it continued to travel off to the east.
Look how the signature does get stronger,
and
too.
the signature definitely, a lot of that blue that's on there, that's all of those very high gusty winds associated with that. And now what we're seeing is there's almost looking to be two little couplets here. So two possible areas of rotation within that severe thunderstorm warning and within that tornado warning. So you really can see that. Now that is in the far western areas of Hancock County. So that rotation itself has made it into the CSRA.
Absolutely has. And again, this storm not showing any signs of a weakening. Now, as it does get closer, we do have a new radar that has all the capabilities of the National Weather Service, but it's close here in town. And as this storm gets closer to that radar, that's going to give us a view that you can only get here that's lower down into the storm, closer to the surface. So if we do see this rotation, we're going to know it's a few hundred feet off the ground, not a half mile up in the sky. That's our new radar site there. Still kind of far away from that for now, but as it gets closer, we're going to have an exclusive down low view into the thunderstorm. Hopefully it weakens, but it's really just not looking like it.
Yeah, and what's actually kind of crazy about looking at some of the more detail of this tornado warning itself. So here's our radar there in Harlem. This goes all the way out, and usually we can't see anything as we get closer to Milledgeville or even western areas of Hancock County. Now, the reason for that is because you guys are closer to the Macon radar, so we don't need it to go that far. But these thunderstorms are tall enough where it's actually getting picked up by the Harlem radar. So there's a lot of juice with those storms and just a whole bunch of lightning. I mean, even here, Columbia County, you're seeing some good lightning right now. If you might have been woken up by some of that too. That stretches through McDuffie County, wraps its way through Warren County, and there you go through Hancock County there, all the way down through Sparta and Milledgeville, seeing all that lightning out there. So it's a very mixed up morning for us as far as all that air is concerned. Lots of energy going on today. Let's take a closer look. We'll go back to the tornado warning out there in Hancock County. We'll zoom into this a little bit more. And you know, I actually want to pull up, I want to see how our high resolution radar is doing with all of this. I'll go to the more recent frame.
And while he's working on that, just to recap, I know a lot of you are waking up and you see us on TV, you know something's going on. So I just want to repeat our information a little bit. 8:15 is when this tornado warning that currently only includes Hancock County, but this is likely to be extended. Should be a new one probably coming out any minute now. But Hancock County to the south of Devereaux, down toward Linton. Looks like it'll stay south of Sparta there in Hancock County. Moving east at 40 miles per hour, a tornado on the ground, not just a radar indicated tornado, but eyeballs have seen a tornado on the ground. Radar showing a debris ball signature.
And it looks like they just updated that tornado warning too. Okay. So what they've done here is they've kind of clipped it a little bit. So that's that inner polygon that you see there covered in white. We're starting to get a very good hook signature on this as well. And I'll switch this over to velocity, and there it is right there between Devereaux going down Georgia 22. And it looks like we got some pretty solid rotation going on too. So I just want to add in a couple things real quick, Chris, and then
and you do get that hook echo forming on the radar. That's the rotation wrapping the rain into the center of the circulation. You even get what's called a bounded weak echo region sometimes, where you actually don't have a lot of rain toward the middle of the circulation. And that only happens in your really strong thunderstorms. So this is, of sorts, a classic hook echo kind of deal here. Tornado on the ground. We don't have reports about damage, but if you are seeing damage, by all means, go to our Facebook page, send a tweet at our news station here. However you want to report that, we would love to know about any damage that is occurring out there. So Devereaux, down to the south along Highway 22 toward Beulah, between Devereaux and Beulah there in Hancock County. That's where we're talking about that tornado. And is this Weather Service radar here, or is this?
This is the Weather Service radar, so not quite into our localized radar just yet. Now, the tornado warning itself has just been clipped, so it hasn't been extended, which is some good news. They're just going to focus on that cell versus saying that cell is going to continue to move forward. Right now, that is still expected to expire within the next 15 minutes. Right now, that is for Hancock County alone in the CSRA, is still for an observed tornado. So they're still thinking there's enough rotation there to kind of qualify as a tornado that is going all the way down to the ground there. We'll switch this over to our correlation coefficient. The good news is that it doesn't look to have that exact debris ball anymore. There's definitely a good hail core, but it seemed to have fallen off a little bit, so that is definitely some good news. Chris, I don't know if you're seeing anything that looks a little bit better for us. Not as much of a defined rotation signature as much either.
No, it appears, at least in that regard, has weakened somewhat. And just as you plan ahead, Columbia County, Richmond County, you've still got about 45 minutes or so before the leading edge of this severe weather moves into your area. Hail is going to be a real threat out there this morning, and you do have about 45 minutes. So if your car's parked on the driveway and you have a garage, you've got time in those areas to run outside, pull your car in the garage, and try to save yourself some damage out ahead of that storm, because this storm, along its current path, will be headed into the Augusta area shortly before 9 o'clock. That's what our tracking tools have been telling us pretty much all morning. There's a regional vantage point. Thompson, looks like good news here for you in terms of this particular supercell, as it looks like it'll probably stay just to your south. It has been moving just a little north of due east at about 40 miles per hour. So don't take your guard down. Rotation can form at any point, but as far as the storm that we are on the air to talk about, it looks like that one will miss you in Thompson. Meanwhile, if you live in Gibson, you're about 20 miles downstream of this storm, it looks like, maybe 15, 20 miles. And at 40 miles per hour, that's about 20 to 30 minutes away from your area. So if you're watching from Gibson, right now you're not under a warning. Just know that if this storm does not weaken, that is a possibility you certainly want to keep watching if you do live in that area. Rennes, hey, keep an eye on it there in northern Jefferson County as well. But in the short term, hopefully this tornado may have lifted, but as we see that latest scan there, I still see some of those light pinks and purples signifying likely some hail. Sometimes some debris can cause that to happen.
And here's some good news too, Chris. So it looks like the Weather Service does agree, and they've canceled the observed tornado warning and just replaced it with your standard tornado warning. So that's why you see that warning there going back to just plain old red. So there is still a tornado warning. There's definitely still a lot of rotation going on, but it does look like what we were seeing earlier as far as that, that classic hook with all of the debris signature has gone away. So that is definitely some good news for us.
Absolutely, and there's our velocity there right in this area here. That's where we're talking about that red next to green on the radar moving off to the east. So there is some good news here in terms of possibly the tornado thunderstorm not being quite as strong as it was. But this warning, nonetheless, does go on for about 10 more minutes. There's a look at that correlation coefficient. I know this is getting mighty sciencey on you, but it is an important tool for us because this is how we see the debris up in the cloud. And if there's debris in the cloud, there has to be a tornado on the ground. So this is a very important tool, but we're not really see that. Let's go through the loop there one more time and kind of follow my finger right across there. There it is, that ball. That right there was a debris ball, but as we bring it out over the past 10 minutes or so, that has gone away.
Yeah, it's definitely weakened out for sure. I can zoom this out a little bit more, and I'll kind of just bounce back and forth. So there it was just going past Milledgeville. There was two little dots on the screen there. And at one point, there was actually a nice little area of blue just outside of Milledgeville. Then that continued to move into the CSRA, so wouldn't be surprised in extreme western areas of Hancock County if there was, at one point, the tornado on the ground. A big signature right there between just to the south of Sparta. Then that started to weaken over the last few frames. So that is some good news for us. But still, if you're in downtown Sparta, you're getting hit pretty hard right now. No tornado warning for you, but lots of heavy rainfall, a ton of lightning, and most likely some hail to go along with it. And let's continue kind of going up through the north here. So Norris, Mayfield, you're also seeing definitely some heavy rainfall as well as some cloud-to-ground lightning. A lot of lightning this morning. Thompson, a little bit of a break right now. We'll switch this over to our local radar, and you can see just not quite as spread out as what we saw with the NWS radar. But Appling going through I-20, continuing through Grovetown, Harlem, a few scattered showers, but a lot of lightning and not necessarily that heavy rainfall that we usually see in your typical summertime thunderstorm, but lots of thunder and lightning out there this morning for sure.
Yeah, and another advantage of using this radar perspective here is that this is live. When you see that red line going around, the radar beam is literally going around, and it only takes about a minute to do that. The Weather Service radar takes a little bit longer, so this does give us a look at the actual location of the storm. Some of the Weather Service radars take about 6 or 7 minutes to update. So again, what you're looking at is actually happening right this second when it does come from our radar there in Harlem.
Yeah, no, definitely a lot faster trying to get data in, and it's a lot more, the resolution on the radar is a lot better. It's up to 10 times better in some cases, so we get a good, precise view of what's going on the ground. Still looking at that tornado warning in Hancock County, so there is a very broad rotation going on right now, so that is some good news versus before we saw that tight couplet. Not going to rule out what this kind of does over the next couple of frames here, but it does look like it is beginning to weaken, so that is some good news for sure. We'll switch this over to the other tool that I like. This kind of just shows the overall strength of those storms, and the red that you see on the screen there indicates some bigger raindrops, and that's usually where we could find more storms that are starting to pop up a little bit more. This is going off of our high-resolution radar, so not quite making it all the way out to Hancock County. But definitely showing that the other rain showers and storms that are out there are definitely on the more healthy side too.
And as we take a big picture look for all of you watching, there is a lot of heavy rain, and notice how these storms are lined up from east back to the west, southwest in the exact same parallel to the direction that they are moving. So this is going to be possibly a training effect that could start to take effect, and that means a prolonged period of heavy rain possible for some areas. So we will have to monitor for that threat for some flooding. That's not the reason we're on TV right now. The reason we're on TV right now is for that tornado warning that still remains in effect for Hancock County. It does look to me like the tornado may have dissipated, but the storm overall is still there. And so that warning will go into effect, and I imagine they will allow this to expire. But again, there's more storms behind this one. This probably won't be the last warning, and it is all moving toward the heart of the Augusta area. Columbia County, Richmond County, back into Warren and Jefferson County, all are going to be under the gun here in the next